The 1970s was a decade unlike any other for British motoring. Fuel crises, industrial unrest, and yet, from the chaos emerged some of the most ambitious, elegant, and utterly fascinating executive saloons ever built on British soil. Cars that rivaled the Germans. Cars that commanded every company car park in the country. Cars that most people today have completely forgotten. We're counting down 10 of the boldest British executive saloons from that turbulent decade. Some you'll remember fondly, some will genuinely surprise you. And number 1, well, it still feels special, even now. Let's begin our countdown with number 10. Number 10, Chrysler 180. Here is one that almost no one talks about anymore, and that is precisely why it opens this list. The Chrysler 180 arrived in Britain in 1970, a product of the Anglo-French alliance between Chrysler UK and Simca, and it wore its ambitions openly. Aimed squarely at the fleet and professional market, it offered a roomy, continental-flavored executive saloon that felt deliberately different from anything British Leyland was producing at the time. But here is what most people do not realize: the 180 was genuinely ahead of its competitors in terms of interior space and long-distance ride comfort. The long, low roofline gave it real road presence. The 1812 cubic centimeters engine was no performance headline, but refinement was always the priority here. It suffered from an identity crisis, part British, part French, fully misunderstood, and that ambiguity cost it badly in the showroom. As a snapshot of early 1970s British executive ambition, the Chrysler 180 deserves far more recognition than history has afforded it. Would you have chosen it back then? Number 9, Wolseley Six. Few badges carried more quiet authority in the British executive world than Wolseley, and the Six was the final, dignified flourish of that long and proud tradition. Launched in 1971 as part of British Leyland's rationalisation programme, the Wolseley Six shared its underpinnings with the Austin 3-litre, but wore them far more gracefully. That illuminated radiator badge alone told you everything about this car's intentions. It was built for the discerning professional who wanted substance without showmanship. Under the bonnet sat a smooth 2.8-litre six-cylinder unit drawn from the E-Series range, delivering unhurried, composed progress in the finest Wolseley tradition. And one detail changed everything: the interior. Deep pile carpeting, genuine wood veneer, and leather seating created an atmosphere closer to a Pall Mall club than a production saloon. But here is the tragedy: British Leyland's relentless internal politics cut the Wolseley Six production run devastatingly short by 1975. Just for years. A car that deserved a decade received barely half of one, and that speaks volumes about the era. Number 8, Austin Princess. Now here is a car that divided opinion the very moment it appeared, and it is still doing so today. The Austin 1822 series, better known to history as the Princess, arrived in 1975 wearing one of the most daring body shapes ever to leave a British design studio. Harris Mann's wedge profile was so radical, so deliberately confrontational, that it looked like nothing else on British roads. Most people completely overlooked just how technically innovative the Princess was beneath that controversial exterior. Hydrogas suspension, with interconnected front and rear units, delivered an eerily smooth ride that left German competitors struggling on British B roads. The 2.2-litre six-cylinder O-Series engine in top trim provided genuine refinement at motorway speeds. But here is what most people do not realize: the Princess never received the hatchback body it desperately needed, and that single omission arguably lost it the sales battle against the Ford Granada entirely. Bold, British, and heartbreakingly close to brilliant. Number 7, Triumph 2500 TC. By the early 1970s, Triumph had built a quiet but formidable reputation for executive saloons with genuine driver appeal, and the 2500 TC was perhaps the purest expression of that philosophy. Derived from the fuel-injected 2.5 Pi, the 2500 TC arrived with twin carburetors feeding a smooth straight six that delivered both character and composure in equal measure. Here is what set it apart from every other car on this list: the handling. Where most executive rivals prioritized soft, wafting comfort above all else, the 2500 TC actively rewarded enthusiastic driving with a precision and balance rarely encountered in this class. The Triumph's trademark walnut fascia and well-bolstered seating created a cabin that was genuinely refined without ever feeling indulgent. And one detail changed everything: the optional overdrive gearbox, which transformed long motorway journeys into effortless, relaxed cruising. This was the thinking driver's executive saloon. Few competitors could match its combination of style, engineering integrity, and sheer driver involvement. A quietly brilliant motorcar. Number 6. Vauxhall Ventora. Do not underestimate the Vauxhall Ventora. It is easy to overlook in the shadow of more glamorous nameplates, but this large, smooth, and genuinely capable saloon earned its position among the decade's finest executive offerings without fanfare or fuss. Based on the Victor FD and later FE platform, the Ventora packed a 3.3-litre straight-six under its bonnet, the same engine that powered police forces and traffic cars across the length of Britain. And that is the detail most people forget: the Ventora was a serious performer in an era when many executive saloons prioritized appearance over urgency. The ride was long and cosseting, the cabin spacious by contemporary standards, and the styling, especially in later Series 2 form, carried an understated elegance that felt deliberately removed from the European competition. Here is what most people do not realize: Vauxhall positioned this car as a credible alternative to entry-level Jaguar for the budget-conscious executive. Bold claim. For many buyers, it genuinely delivered. Number 5. Ford Granada Mk1. By 1972, Ford understood exactly what the British executive market required, and the Mk1 Granada delivered it with clinical, almost unsettling precision. Built at Cologne but marketed as a thoroughly contemporary British product, the Granada arrived with a sophistication that left domestic competition frantically searching for answers. Here is what made it genuinely special: the engine range. From the 2.0-litre Pinto to the silky, characterful 3.0-litre Essex V6, the Granada offered flexibility and performance breadth that no British Leyland executive product could honestly claim to match. The body styling, clean, continental, and effortlessly proportioned, aged beautifully across the decade. Interior quality represented a dramatic step forward for Ford, with a gear trim level bringing velour seating and genuine luxury ambitions to a Ford showroom for the very first time. But here is what most people overlook: the Granada did not merely compete with British executive saloons, it fundamentally redefined what buyers believed they were entitled to expect. Few cars reshaped a market so completely. Number 4. Triumph Dolomite Sprint. Now we move into genuinely extraordinary territory. The Triumph Dolomite Sprint of 1973 was, and this cannot be overstated, one of the most technically advanced production saloons in the world at the precise moment of its launch. A 16-valve, single overhead cam head on a 2-litre engine, developed in collaboration with Saab's engine division in 1973? From British Leyland? That is the detail that stops people mid-sentence when they first encounter it. The Sprint produced 127 brake horsepower, making it quicker than many dedicated sports cars of the period, while presenting itself as a perfectly respectable executive saloon. The interior maintained Triumph's tradition of walnut and leather refinement, creating a fascinating and deeply appealing duality. This was a wolf in very tasteful clothing. But here is what most people do not realize: the Dolomite Sprint won the inaugural British Touring Car Championship in 1975, defeating far more powerful machinery. Engineering innovation, motorsport pedigree, genuine style, the Sprint possessed all three simultaneously. Number 3. Rover P6 3500. By any honest measure, the Rover P6 3500 belongs among the greatest executive saloons Britain ever produced, and its presence in the early 1970s market was simply formidable. Launched originally in 1968 but flourishing throughout the decade's early years, the P6 was the car the entire industry quietly studied and privately envied. The innovative base unit construction, the de Dion rear suspension, the horizontal spring and damper arrangement, this was engineering that belonged in a university lecture theatre rather than a manufacturer's specification sheet. The 3.5-litre Rover V8, an inspired acquisition from Bix Parts Bin, delivered throttle response and top-end composure that made every journey feel quietly effortless. And one detail changed everything: the interior architecture. Ahead of its time in ergonomics and instrument layout, the P6 felt genuinely modern in a way that baffled competitors for years. It was European Car of the Year upon launch, an achievement almost entirely forgotten today. Drive one now, and the magic remains completely intact. Number 2. Rover SD1. If the P6 was the intellectual, the Rover SD1 was the film star. When it arrived in 1976, the automotive world genuinely stopped to stare. Designer David Bake had achieved something remarkable, a 5-door fastback wearing proportions that recalled the Ferrari Daytona, wrapped around a thoroughly British executive brief. The SD1 claimed European Car of the Year in 1977, and for once, nobody in the industry argued. The 3.5-litre V8 in its most potent specification was a genuine performance saloon, capable of 130 miles per hour at a time when such figures commanded absolute respect. Here is what most people do not realize: the SD1 was Rover's sincere, fully committed attempt to challenge BMW and Mercedes-Benz on their own terms, not through heritage or tradition, but through bold, forward-thinking design and driver-focused engineering. The build quality issues that plagued early cars were a genuine tragedy. But the concept, the ambition, the sheer visual drama, that was never in question. One of the most beautiful British saloons ever conceived. Number 1. Jaguar XJ6 Series 2. And here we are. Number 1. The car that, even after 50 years, still feels genuinely and quietly special. The Jaguar XJ6 Series 2. Sir William Lyon's masterpiece had already redefined the executive saloon concept upon its original 1968 debut. The Series 2, carefully refined for 1973, took that remarkable foundation and elevated it to something close to perfection. That long, low bonnet. The wide, planted stance. The twin headlights set within that impossibly elegant front end. Road testers in 1973 described it as the finest car in the world at any price, and competitors from Stuttgart and Munich privately acknowledged the compliment. But here is what most people overlook: it was not just beautiful. The independent rear suspension delivered ride quality that embarrassed Rolls-Royce. The twin-cam straight-six was so hushed, so effortlessly composed, that it redefined what a production engine could genuinely be. Sit inside a well-preserved XJ6 Series 2 today, close that door, feel the walnut, touch the leather, and you will understand immediately. Not nostalgically special. Just special. The 1970s was a turbulent, complicated, and occasionally brilliant decade for British motoring. These 10 cars represent the ambition, the creativity, and yes, the heartbreak of an industry fighting for its identity against powerful foreign competition. Some of these names are celebrated. Some have been almost entirely forgotten. But every single one of them tells a story worth remembering and worth honoring. If this list brought back a memory, or introduced you to a car you had never encountered before, let us know in the comments below. Which of these 10 would you have chosen? Like the video if you enjoyed the journey, subscribe to Britain Rewind for more, and we will see you on the next drive back through British motoring history.